We are live. Welcome to the Renegade podcast. I'm your host, A Dashing Rogue, and I'm with my frequent sidekick, Artistic Layman.
You touch me?
But why? Everyone will tease you about being cursed and stuff.
Yeah, that sounds sick.
What is that from?
It's from an anime called My First Clueless First Friend.
Will you touch me?
He's the main protagonist is convinced that this girl at school is the Grim Reaper because everyone teases her, and he's trying to gain her Grim Reaper power.
Why don't you just wear her clothing or something like that? That's what worked for Homer Simpson.
Don't give him ideas. The kid is very enthusiastic.
Jesus, that's freaking weird. I need to watch more anime lately. I really do. Like,
I mean, it's mostly the anime is mostly a drag though. But like the only thing good, I'm just curious how the dub is going to work.
I need to watch the rest of Bastard. I really do need to watch. I kind of want to watch. Like, Luke, I kind of want to like expand what we were originally going to watch, because again, for those of you who know, we have a Discord watch time. We on my Discord, link in the description, by the way. We have we watch Stargate, we watch a lot of sci-fi, but I kind of want to expand it to other things besides, Stargate SG-1 and fucking Battlestar Galactica. But we do that every Saturday, and I have another friend of mine who actually know him in real life back in California, of all places. The land of it's the edge of the world and of all of Western civilization, according to the Red Hot Chili Peppers. The sun may rise in the east, but it settles in another location. And Hollywood, I can't remember the freaking lyrics, to be honest with you, but I'm a little bit tipsy here, but we got an interesting show for you guys tonight. But yeah, tune in because we're gonna watch a lot of weird stuff on Saturday. But currently, right now, that song we were playing was "Sticker Bush Symphony," I believe it was by Donkey Kong Country or by Nintendo and Rare. They make some of the best music. They do. Rare is like. They understand how to actually like make a good soundtrack, especially when they like. I think one of the artists who did, I think it was Aquatic Ambience, like the first Donkey Kong Country. He literally broke down the song into like binary and hexadecimal, and he reconstructed it so he could work within the limitations of the hardware. And that's why you have like some like even today, like I still like Donkey Kong Country. I still like it. That Banjo-Kazooie and the rest of them, they're really good freaking soundtracks for their time.
And we're just watching this just reminds me of their little cameos in the Mario movie, because it's people criticize the movie for having too many references, but it's virtually all movies based on books are references, and it's just kind of nice to see, oh yeah, there's Donkey Kong to remind us that these characters exist.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, they're going to do the same thing, apparently, with the Barbie film. Like, I heard there's going to be...
Have you heard? What's the new news on that one?
Okay, so one of the things I heard, besides basically talking about Margot Robbie's feet, is that... no, I'm not kidding. Like, people, like, obsessing over that, because, like, apparently the most iconic thing of Barbie is the feet, right? Because they all have the... Yeah, I'm not even kidding. It's weird.
So we're not talking about Sonic the Hedgehog, are we?
No, we're not talking about Sonic the Hedgehog. No, not like I hope not, at least.
I had the decency to keep that out of the conversation when the movies came out. Thank goodness.
Beckloff says, "DK Music, watch the Orville." I will watch the. You know what? We're gonna watch the Orville, Luke.
Oh,
we're gonna watch the.
We
will watch the
like,
Orville.
Anything? What was DK Music?
I don't know. I've never seen that. I imagine it's basically a cross between the Scrubs and freaking Star Trek, so to speak.
Well, I've seen all of it, but I don't remember seeing about the music.
Is it? Wait, I thought. Is it still playing? Is Orville still playing?
Well, 2 seasons, but I don't know if a 3rd season's out yet.
Oh, okay. So it didn't get canceled.
Well, I mean, they're taking their precious time to make it, but I don't know if they've canceled it or not.
Oh, jeez. It's series 2017. Number of Seasons, season 3 is coming out. It's to the present. It hasn't been canceled yet. That's good. But we're gonna talk about a few things here and there. But first, an update. Luke, I put my money where my mouth is.
Oh, yes.
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. Now, granted, I didn't have a lot of freaking cash, and I didn't want to be totally obnoxious, but I did ask the hard hitting questions. I sent you two super chats, Luke, or two files. Could you play them for those who want to hear?
So, should we set up the context for what we're about to watch?
Okay, so we're basically about to watch the quote unquote hashtag right wing equivalent of the View, because that's what it is at this point. Which I'll just say it right now. I love that description, Luke, because it kind of is. They're just catty women. Like, you got Whoopi Gold. All we need is Whoopi Goldberg and the freaking. Well, I mean, technically, already Sharon Osbourne's already on. Apparently, I'll let you decide which one of these characters is Sharon Osbourne.
So basically, this channel called Chrissy Mayer, is it?
Chrissy Mayer, yeah.
So yeah, the way I described it is, it's kind of like the right wing on YouTube equivalent of The View. At least I've never heard this channel before, but Razorfist came onto it to promote his new comic book. Which,
by the way, let me just say this: that's degeneracy. Like, it really is. Like, it's the same problem I have with Dawkins basically weaponizing atheism to try to shill his bullshit God delusion crap, or even trying to be relevant. Because that's really what a lot of stuff is multi-level marketing. Nobody would know who Lucien Greaves is unless he started making the Satanic Church, right? Or even like making his own spin-off of it. Nobody would know about, Comicsgate until Comicsgate was a thing. Stark and Avocado would have been a twinkle in the mind's eye if it wasn't for Anita Sarkeesian or the feminists, so to speak. So I really do believe we're going to see a cycle, so to speak, happen where the counterculture is going to basically just keep on trying to stay in the spotlight. Well, there's going to be a battle.
Because the biggest problem with like in this cultural war of entertainment is that things are not going to be enjoyed. Entertainment's not going to be enjoyed for its own sake. It's going to be enjoyed for the political affiliation of it. And I haven't read Razor Fist's comic, and from what little pieces I have, it's like it's kind of like Solomon Kane, except all in the Wild West with no supernatural stuff so far.
Well, I mean, I've heard that his Death Shadow comic, or his like thief, it's literally just a thief, for a glorified thief.
Yeah, it's a thief with fan fiction, I guess you could call it.
Yeah, and let me just say this: for all the talk about it's a fan fiction, well, you do know that 50 Shades of Grey sold a lot, right? And it is literally just a Twilight fan fiction. So I feel no, I'm serious. I could forgive that.
50 Shades of Grey?
50 Shades of Grey was originally a Twilight fan fiction.
Really?
Yeah.
I would never guessed.
I never would have guessed either, but apparently that's the world we're in right now. It's getting to the point where anything can be considered a fan fiction. It's almost like a badge of honor. So anyway, I sent two super chats.
Just to set this up, you sent some super chats to bring attention to things you want to bring attention to.
Yeah, exactly. Now, again, I haven't accused him per se, but I did put out some stuff. Here you go.
Play it, I'm going to try to play this correctly, so we can pause. Like, you want me to pause it and zip through it?
You can zip through it. Yeah, just zip through it, and you can. Yeah.
Let's see. I think this is the first one.
Put it on the screen. Behold the viewing globe, Rangers. There we go.
Like, oh, he's not gay. He's just afraid. and we're like thought about confronting him about it. We're like, he'll figure it out.
That's a real conundrum. Like, not sure if gay or scared around women.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. DJ Cogdill. Wait until they find out about Lyndon Baines Johnson putting a
Just
gag
keep moving
order
up
on
a bit.
survivors of the
Wait for
USS
it.
Liberty attack.
Wait for it.
Wait for it.
Uh-oh,
Wait
we're
for it.
talking about the Liberty.
Uh-oh.
And
Spicy history cast.
speaking of the Liberty,
Okay, here's my take. The
Boom
government
goes the
stuff is
dynamite.
fucked up. You don't even need to.
did you
study
see that?
it.
Go back.
Wait,
Go back. Freeze frame. Freeze frame. Go back.
There it is.
Hey, Razor.
Okay, here.
Right.
Hey, Razor. Remember when you were dating a 15-year-old at 30?
Then
Now.
Okay, because there's so many things to try to watch out for.
Okay, so let me just say this right now. There is an accusation against him. However, at the same time, I that's fine. You could block these people. You can block me. You can block whatever you want. You can, not read out the super chat. Fine. But I also did another super chat because I like to, I like to play good cop, bad cop, except I like to do it with myself, and I like to be a bit schizophrenic in that regard.
Before we move on, because I'm assuming because this chat disappears really quickly, which means the woman, I guess the woman in the right corner with the redhead here, saw it and like pushed it away really quickly.
Well, that's Chrissy Mayer.
Let me see.
She's the host. She's the host.
Oh yeah. Because I wanted to see like. Because we didn't wonder. Oh wait, was she prepared for that? Like, did she just see it and not like know right away to push away, or what's this about?
I imagine she did. But at the same time, shots fired. Welcome to the Battle of Verdun.
Let's see.
Okay, here's my take. The government sucks and is fucked up.
Bam.
That was fast. She didn't.
That
even
was
react.
Fast.
Well, who was talking just now?
Even need to.
And Venti was talking about something about the U.S. Liberty.
Yeah, they were talking about something along those lines. But I also sent Venti a super chat. You can look it up, Luke.
Yes, I'll look at it right. I'll post it right here.
Yeah. Putting your money where your mouth is very important because again, it is very.
Here we are.
Here we go. Yeah, it is a struggle. It is a struggle session. The difference here is that it's good cop, bad cop, or in this case, good shrink, bad shrink. Go on.
Ow.
Yeah, it was pathetic.
Wait for it.
Here, I thought
Gotta reload the freaking big battery.
Right?
Ow.
What?
Laser.
Wait for it.
Stay away
Okay, here we are.
So read it out. Question for Brittany. Thoughts on Pro Jared's way of handling accusations of dating a minor? Is it correct to ignore the claims until charges are filed? Fair question, right? Because again, the whole accusation against Razor Fist is just that, an accusation. She has not come forward, but there are people now who are finding out about this shit because he keeps blocking people. And we know that Twitter freaking makes it so that if you get blocked by someone who is of a certain, demographic or group, you are less likely to see more of your channel. It basically gets smothered as a result. Ideally, in the ideal world, it shouldn't do that. It shouldn't have that. But if you're going to claim to be pro freedom of speech and at the same time bring shit up, and then people ask simple questions, right? You block them. You're smothering their people's channels in the crib. Now, what does Brittany Venti have to say? Now, keep an eye on this. Keep going.
history question. Catching broad thoughts on. No, I can't.
Yeah. Neither can I. Neither can I.
What was he doing that for anyway?
I don't know. Maybe I don't know. I don't know what goes through these people's minds.
But that was pretty much. But I mean, that was kind of a level of subterfuge on your part. But that's pretty much handled that situation.
Yeah, exactly. Now, again, he handled it pretty well. Now keep playing.
That like a content creator.
Yep.
Oh, that's it, folks.
Well done. That's it for that. So now we have it. So again, he handled it fairly well. What is not handling well is blocking people. Blocking people because they bring up the topic. I mean, it's not even to the point where like I did like one really fucked up way and one really reasonable way. Like I'm good cop now and I'm here to help you. That was bad cop. No, I'm good cop. Right? So, or good rogue, I should say. But what I'm trying to get across here is now we acknowledge that, Brittany Venti, who, by the way, goes into a lot of this pedo shit. Like, she's very much against Lolicon. And even then, I'll just say it right now, I'm fine with Lolicon characters. I just don't think they should be sexualized. Does that make any sense? So was it Nahoshi? What the hell's her name? Sasami.
Does Lolicon specifically mean they have to be sexualized, or does Lolicon mean just young characters?
I think it means Lolita, I believe. Lolita. Well, let me just say this. From what I understand, Well, again, Virgie is going to be is leading the charge here. I'm just the guy who's firing batteries at coordinates because that's what I do. I use my economic artillery to get my shit done. You know.
Mm-hmm. And I did see a little bit. I did see some of the chat try to respond to it, asking Venti to push the conversation, but I guess it never came up.
Well, Venti, the cool thing about Venti is she keeps the information open. She keeps the channels of communication open. So ergo, those people out there who are, I send her some information. Let's just say I send her some data.
And just for the record, oh yeah, go on, keep going.
Go on. She'll look into it. If she wants questions, I can send her more information. I have already told her I don't hate Razorfist. I really don't hate him. I really, really don't. But when you block people for bringing up the conversation, when even asking questions like whatever happened to that chick, whatever happened, and then you just block them. Oh, she went to go, pick up a pack of smokes, and she never came back. I mean, that's the level of freaking of answer and response we get from this shit. But what were you gonna say?
Oh yeah, and for those clips happened from a stream that started like 3 hours ago and is still going on.
Yeah, exactly. So I will not advocate people go into that stream. Don't fuck with him. Right now, I've already done what I need to do. My job is complete.
Yeah, so it's very clear that this situation is not going to come for a head. This is probably the closest we've ever seen it come to a head. Although whether or not it actually will come up again is another question. But as of right now, they're basically posting, they're sharing the trailer for the comic that he made.
Which again, I want to say it's just an accusation, but the way he is handling it, right? He's not getting ahead of it. He's blocking people, and when they block people, people start looking at this shit. I did not go to, let's just say, a certain fruit plantation of the avian variety. Now, I'll just say that I did not go to that on my own. I went there because I'm like, what the hell? Why did he block me? Well, let me look into this. Oh my God, we're dealing with Linkara and fucking Spoonie combined. Gothic Linkara.
Oh boy.
Yeah, what's up, Holy Mystic? What's up, Vinny? What's up, DK? How you doing? And how you doing, Beckloff? Welcome. Alrighty, so let's go with the actual conversation we were going to have.
Yes.
New Age Lysenkoism, and this is coming from the land of gods and monsters itself. So what is Lysenkoism?
Has it been new in developments, or what are we doing?
Well, we're going to look at what Lysenkoism is.
Oh, that's an interesting subject.
So what do you know about Lysenkoism?
It's Marxism applied to farming.
Yeah, so instead of Darwinian evolution, they go more for Lamarckian evolution, where everyone cooperates. So, like, let's say you have a bunch of dandelions, they're gonna all because they're gonna show biological solidarity with actual crops.
I loved how Naked Ape said it. One of the theories of Lysenkoism was the idea that plants had a certain type of proletariat solidarity and wouldn't compete with each other because if they were planted too close to each other.
Now, one of the things I only bring this up because this shit this was posted on freaking NBC Barrier News, and
what is this?
We're gonna watch it. We're gonna watch it because can you imagine the level of just imagine the climate change activists mixed with the New Agers, and the fact that it's happening in California of all places. Play it, Luke.
Yeah, the image that you have of Lysenko, soon after when it fell out of favor, if Stalin was still alive, because the thing is, Lysenko was finally kicked out only after he was protected by Stalin, and he could never be challenged, and he basically purged anyone who questioned him, and only after Stalin died was he finally thrown out into obscurity.
No. It's not communist. Like I said, Holy Mystic, it's not communist Minecraft. That would be too much fun. No. It's more like dandelions, and you have, let's say, a bunch of carrots trying to compete for resources, which they will compete for resources because they're biological. They're biological organisms. They don't have a hive mind unless, and this is very important, we get communist Lorax to show up. Play it, Luke.
No, this couldn't be real. Is this actually NBC News? Why?
This is because it's freaking California.
Speaking, and the documentary that just came out by Epic Times, but I haven't seen it yet.
Okay, so before we continue, Mark Wahlberg knows what they're saying. He knows about the happening. Yeah.
Here we go. Gotta get this.
Play it out.
Forget winter storms brought the rain, yes, but they also knocked out 2,000 trees in San Francisco alone. In fact, California has lost 36 million trees in the past year. So it's safe to say the weather extremes from our...
I said spirit science influencer.
You might very well be correct in that regard. You might be.
If spirit science was in power, would they purge their opposition?
Like I said, New Age Lysenkoism. We have to start. We can't eat animals because they have souls. But what's going to happen when you can't eat freaking you can't eat crops, right? You can't eat corn because the Lorax speaks for the trees, right? The communist Lorax.
Yeah, there are certain variations of pantheism or Hinduism that have this problem because they can't devour any life because that's a reincarnation of life. And say, well, wait, how do you eat? Oh, simple. If someone else kills the plant, I can eat it because they wasn't killed on my behalf.
Oh, it's fucking Brahmin. That's Brahmin bullshit. Yes. Fuck those people. Fuck them.
Climate are putting our plants under stress, right? And a new study shows they might be trying to communicate that through sound. So let's go and bring it.
What was that Mark Wahlberg movie about the plants like
The Happening? The Happening. We're having The Happening, guys. It's actually true.
Well, at least they're not
now, before we continue, because we're gonna have to break this up a bit because Mandrake, the Reds are coming now. Again. Yeah. Here you go, Luke. Just play this. Just play this. Magical herbs, the Mandrake. Mandrake, the Reds are coming. Here we go. Oh yeah. We're not going spirit science, but this is spirit science adjacent. Let's just say.
Your psychedelic historian, and this is the magic herb, Mandrake. Before we get started, if you're into this kind of content,
so is it real or not?
It's real. We're talking about Pokemon right now. Luke, skip ahead a bit.
Please subscribe to the psychedelic.
Where to?
Right there.
Sure, where the name Mandrake comes from. One possibility is from the Greek mandra agora, meaning usual meeting place, perhaps a reference to Mandrake's growth cycle. You see, while the leaves and berries might wither and die from the plant, the roots stay intact, ensuring that you can always find it again the next year, in the usual meeting place. One Persian possibility is Mardamgia, meaning plant man, a reference to the somewhat human-like shape of the Mandrake root. Another contender from Persia is the word mardam, which simply means magic making. In medical Latin, it was known as Circium, or Circe's herb, as many people believed that Mandrake was one of the main hexing ingredients used by that goddess. Some German texts refer to Mandrake as Alleruna, which could possibly mean keeper of secrets, a breakdown of the Old High German Alla meaning to beget, and Runa meaning secrets. Whatever Mandrake was called, it was recognized as one of the most widely used magical plants all across the Mediterranean in the great civilizations of Egypt, Greece, Rome, and Jerusalem. Like all plants of the Solanaceae family, the effects of Mandrake are dose-dependent. Taking around a gram of Mandrake will lead to mild visuals and a drowsy effect.
So it's a psychedelic.
You have to remember, Luke. A lot of magic was just people getting blitzed off their fucking, getting high off their own supply, quite literally.
Oh yeah, that actually makes magic. That makes a lot more sense than thinking people wielded like powers, because if you just realize that actually I remember the interview.
People.
I remember that interview with Alan Moore where he said everything that people say about magic is all absolutely true as long as you remember it's inside their minds. Like, oh, that's what drugs do. Okay.
Yeah, they're all high as a kite, don't you know?
And their power and the magic is playing out in their minds.
Yep. Now, do you remember the Pokemon Oddish?
Oddish.
Yeah.
Which one's that one?
Oddish is the one with the little blue guy with the little it looks like a root.
The plants on its head, or
yeah, exactly. So do you remember in like Harry Potter when they were like ripping out, like they were like doing gardening and like they had to rip out that particular
the mandrake
root?
If you hear it scream, you'll knock you out.
It will kill you.
Yeah.
It will flat out kill you. So keep that in mind. This is happening in California, and this is also happening in. They're saying that the trees can literally speak. That the hills have eyes, and the birds and the. Just imagine these type of people.
Were the studies like violent noises, or what was that?
Well, let's just hear them out. Go on.
Which one?
The stressed plants.
Stress plant.
Yeah.
Just VNA Rana, VNA. Plant can talk? Yeah.
You know, it's an interesting take because essentially they do have a way of communicating, right?
Okay.
Maybe not in the way that we do, but they might change the color of their leaves to let us know that they're, in need of water.
Sure.
And trees and plants, of course, are vital when it comes to oxygen, storing carbon, and giving life to the world's wildlife. And of course, a new study is showing us now that plants are making noises when they're stressed. Now, this study was published in the Science.
How can a plant be stressed?
It depends. I mean, you do know you could talk shit to a plant and it'll basically start to wither and die, as opposed to if you be nice to it and compliment it, it'll actually grow. You know that, right?
I've heard about that before, but I didn't know. I thought it was just a wives' tale.
Apparently, well, let's just say that the scientists and the experts, the hollowed halls of academia have spoken, and they're going to tell you right now that what's going to happen. Keep playing it.
Journal Cell showcasing the airborne sounds emitted by tomato and tobacco plants, interestingly enough. Now, this was done inside an acoustic chamber, and it may be hard to hear, but we're going to air it now, okay? So listen closely. Here's the sound they were able to capture. So it's sort of like a popping noise, right? A little clicking, popping noise. Now, through these sounds, researchers were able to determine the dehydration level and level of injury based solely on the sound. Now, to get more insight, we asked Professor Lewis Feldman, a professor at plant biology at UC Berkeley, to see his take on the study.
The columns of water, which are stretched in a plant, kind of like a rubber band, that they stretch so much like the rubber band that it breaks. And the breaking of the column of water or breaking of the rubber band is what makes the clicking noise, what makes that sound. It's called, technically it's called an embolism or cavitation. Those are the two terms that plant physiologists use to describe when that water column breaks and when you hear the clicking noise.
So basically a sound wave can burst a plant.
Well, yeah,
Like
but at the same time...
Or a sonic boom, I guess.
Yeah, it's sort of like that. But at the same time, can you imagine what will happen if, like, again, this is from Berkeley of all places, right? So a professor of plant biology, if there ever was such a need for such a thing.
Plant biology. I thought it was called herbology.
That's what I always thought. I had a friend who's like Sticks and Hex and Hammer who was into herbology. I could have bought like rattlesnake venom off of him at one point. Keep going.
So the plants are saying like, I'm dehydrated, click, click, pop, pop. So obviously
climate change is killing me. Climate change is killing me. I want to have a right to the vote. I'm not kidding. Like, there will be people out there who will do that. You think I'm joking, but there will be people out there who do it.
They're already doing it now. I mean, Alan Moore turned them all into plant voters long before this came out.
Shit. And then, of course, we have AOC over here. Here we go. Take a look at this, Luke. This is beautiful.
Oh.
This is what happens when you start having racist cauliflowers, those fucking white cauliflower bastards
how long
versus
ago
the
was
yucca.
This? How long ago
this was actually, I should probably back this up. This is about 3 years ago.
Let's see.
Imagine AOC basically, speaking for the trees, going full on Lorax and saying, "Oh, look, the plants can actually talk, and now they're telling me that climate change is horrible. We should all." Like, let me just say this: if plants can talk, they probably also have genetic memory. Okay, just because of the nature of how plants reproduce. So it's less likely they speak English, and more likely they speak the native tongue of the land of the indigenous population. I'm not joking. So like, you'll have a German, like a German Mandrake speaking German, right? And then you'll have like the colonial, like they'll basically say, we're against white people, we hate the colonialists, we want to have free reign. And like, can you imagine just like if you take this shit seriously? Imagine it.
And to think I'm supposed to be the anti-science person here.
we are not anti-science. We are actually Christian we're skeptics. We are literally legitimately skeptics in this world of magic and mazes and monsters and shit.
Well, with more and more people discovering the book Dominion, there's like, Christians are scientists. That's what we're supposed to be like.
We are. I've heard about plants too. I've heard that about plants too. Yeah, they can, but here's the issue: what's going to happen when they become a political tool, Vinny? Wolfman purposes stressed physically, not mentally. Yeah.
Yeah, they don't have any mentality of stress, so
they don't. But don't let ALC tell you that. Here we go. I'll pull it up for you right here, Luke.
Thought about how I some of the food access and gardening things that I've been able to do in DC back here at home, and I just found something awesome. Also, this is why I love walking around in the district, because you just notice things that you can't find online.
I remember this.
You remember Sargon talking about this, right?
Oh yeah, I remember this now.
Okay, so about 1 minute in, 1 minute and 11 seconds in. There we go.
Places, and you have the garden bed. So here's the next event that's happening right here in the community. It's next Friday. It's hosted by Teatro Sea, and it's a mask making workshop, which is so beautiful because it incorporates that cultural element. Mask making has.
Was this for COVID? Was this for COVID or
this was from COVID? This was from COVID.
Oh.
Really important roots in the Caribbean and African ancestry of so many of the communities that live here. That's amazing. here it is, and here's what I love to do.
Oh yeah, because that's making mass is an aberrational tradition.
It's bullshit. These people are fucking racists. They really are.
I mean, they're word wizards. Just make as many buzzwords as possible, and no one will think critically.
Yep, exactly. They need to be stopped. You need to become mage killers and go after these people.
Inquisitors and witch hunters. That's what we are.
I'm actually considering talking to Bob Larson. I really am considering that. But right now, until I get some stable income and I have enough money saved up, I can't do anything. So that's hence why I didn't press the issue regarding Razor Fist and whatnot. But at the same time, I need to keep all lines of communication open as much as I can. I don't want to be blocked by anybody. Don't need to be blocked by anybody. Keep going.
Check out NYRP. I'm sure.
Nature is a fundamental right of
every New Yorker.
What does that mean?
That means you have a right to it means you have a right to food, essentially. That's what they're talking.
You have a right to have access to food, but you don't have a right to just take food from wherever you want. If that belongs to someone else.
Okay, so about 2 minutes and 23 seconds in. Yeah.
So that's really how you do it right. That is such a core component of the Green New Deal, is having all of these projects make sense in a cultural context.
Oh yeah, that's what this was.
Yeah, keep going.
And it's an area that we get the most pushback on, because people say, why do you need to do that? That's too hard. But when you really think about it, when someone says that it's too hard to do a green space that grows yucca instead of, I don't know, cauliflower or something, what you're doing is that you're taking a colonial approach to environmentalism. And that is why a lot of communities of color get resistant to certain environmentalist movements, because they come with a colonial lens on them. And it should be no surprise that that sometimes a lot of these projects don't work out occasionally.
Oh, that's...
So the reason why why the plants don't talk anymore is because you bigoted white bastards brought in freaking actual crops that can grow in that climate, and the reason and those trees are telling me you need to get rid of you need to check your privilege. Evergreen, you can't be here. We need to have palm trees, even though they're not going to be native. They'll die and they'll wither and die because of the nature of the environment.
Hey, you want to decolonize the world? How about you grow some bananas there? Let's see how well you can grow that in New York.
They can't grow bananas, and it's just the natural order of things. It's like this insane blood and soil argument. It really is.
That's false consciousness, or dashing rogue. You are a capitalist justifying the oppression of these poor people not being able to plant yucca.
Oh, speaking of which, we're gonna get into that. But just let's go back to let's Tarantino it back to the original NBC article or movie.
But I'm wondering, I have plants in my home. Can I hear them? Will I know when they need water?
I was wondering the same thing. Huge plant one over here, right? So I can see when my plants need water, but if I sit there closely, can I hear it? Well, we were wondering the same thing, and I did ask him about similar scenarios, and he said in the past, farmers have placed microphones in fields or greenhouses to determine when the crops might be getting dry. Another interesting note within the study was the idea that perhaps wildlife or insects could in fact hear some sort of signal, but maybe not as a way of alerting the animals themselves. Rather, the plant was trying to signal to itself or surrounding plants of a stress factor, things like lack of water. So binks might actually be able to hear plants. Now that's not, of course, that's not has been tested or true. Something along the lines of insects might be able to hear the sounds emitted, but it's not a signal for them. It's more like the plant that's emitting the sound.
Yeah. Okay. So you were talking about lack of water, right? We're just emerging from the serious drought, and researchers have been keeping a close eye on our famous redwoods. So I'm wondering, now that we're talking about sounds and everything, can those redwoods make noise? Can they make sounds as our climate changes?
I did ask him about that connection because, as we know, fog
of course
is
it's climate change, right? So I guarantee you, we will see. I don't know how. Like we already have pagan cults in San Diego and Los Angeles who are basically worshiping the Aztec god of human sacrifice. No joke. There actually are like indigenous cultures Marxists trying to bring back pagan death gods essentially from Aztec and Mayan mythology as a replacement and alternative to the evil colonial Christian gods. I'm not kidding. So I guarantee you in the near future, we will see people like Terrence McKenna and the rest of those fuckers trying to speak for the fucking trees and saying they don't like climate change. You need to check your privilege and have an ESG score that is legitimate or something along those lines.
That's what it always was. It was the socialism, environmental socialism. That's what it always was.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was. And this time we're going to have the priest cast and all the rest of them show up. And again, we don't even know these things actually have the ability to communicate. For all you know, they'll go full on into the happening and just start killing people because, I don't know. We have to have a plot for a movie.
Now the humans will do that on their behalf, on the presumed behalf.
Yeah. Yeah.
For redwood trees.
Yeah.
And I said, is this something that could possibly be emitting from redwoods?
Sure.
And here's what he had to say about that.
It's well known, and in fact, there's an investigator here at Berkeley who has studied the fact that fog actually can be absorbed by the tops of very tall trees like redwood trees. And in that circumstance, the absorbing of the fog probably would be a way of decreasing the stress. And if there are actually clicking sounds going on at the top of a redwood tree, probably would alleviate them or maybe reduce them simply because there's a source of moisture very close to the top of the tree, which of course is very distant from the root system.
And then the Dreadwood will start talking about how the climate and there's global warming actually is real. And it's a witness because it's been alive longer than any other human being has ever been alive. And therefore you should shut up and just accept the fact that you should just go green and ban all freaking, gas emitting cars and actually lower your carbon footprint. I'm not kidding. This could happen.
Well, it is California again. I mean, this is all happening
in Berkeley
again.
It's Berkeley. It's Berserkly, mate.
Mm-hmm.
Keep going.
Not actually been done, but he said that this could be something that we look into in the future.
Okay.
And measuring the sounds of this could essentially, in the long run, lead to signs of how stress release from plants could actually connect us to our changing ecosystem when it comes to our weather extremes in the future.
There's a lot to look into. Carl's a good.
But I mean, if you find me setting up a little microphone by my house plants, now you know why.
And you should try and bait.
Climate in crisis. Of course, the segues there.
It segues there because why not?
This year,
let's see. When was it? This was an hour ago. Oh, this is just updated.
This is just updated. Let's watch it just for a little bit. Go on.
23. What might the weather forecast look like by the year 2053? First, before we get there, let's take a look back how drought conditions have changed over the last 20 years or so. Going back to 2000, droughts becoming more frequent and more intense around California. Now, thankfully, this year we've caught a break.
Until they're not.
Until you get rid of the fucking Democrats out of California, which will never fucking happen, unfortunately, because again, no one wants to be civic. No one wants to actually run for anything. It's sad but true. You have Sam Liccardo, the mayor of San Jose, bending the knee. He bent the knee to freaking BLM. That was the moment we know he had to leave. You had to leave. You had to get out. Keep going.
Very heavy rain and heavy Sierra snow. We've managed to back out of those conditions. That's very intense just 1 year ago. At the same time, as we go back farther in time when it comes to California's average temperature since 1895, you see a more distinct upward trend since 1980, and especially...
Go back farther than that.
We don't have the data, though, but the trees do.
Oh, the trees don't need that. We have it in everywhere else.
Since 2000. We've seen 4 of the 5 warmest years on record since about 2010. So what this does, that warmer air is a critical component loading the atmosphere with a higher moisture carrying capacity. Now, depending on the temperatures, that could power up some heavier snow rates if the air above is still cold enough to support snowfall. But in many times, when it comes to our atmospheric river storms, that makes them more intense. The ability...
Yeah, cause I was wondering, I mean, if more water is evaporating, wouldn't that put more water in the atmosphere? Like, wouldn't that create more clouds and then cool the planets?
It would, but here's the issue, though. When they're mismanaging the land, they all want to basically create, I think it was almonds in California, which again take up a lot of freaking water to the point where instead of using something that's actually profitable, not even profitable, but something that actually the land can maintain, right? Whether it be crops like beets or crops like, let's say, corn, let's say. They all want the cash crop. So as a result, they're all about the money. They don't care about the land. They're not going to till the land and actually, make and live within their means. They're not going to do it, despite the fact that they'll tell you to do it. They'll tell you to fucking not drive a freaking Camaro. They'll tell you not to drive a 4x4 truck. They'll tell you not to eat the freaking meat, but eat the bugs. But they'll never freaking do it themselves.
Oh yeah, this is how they translate it into like political action, climate injustice.
Exactly. The trees are going to speak on behalf of the native population, the indigenous population, right?
And then we can push policy to get corporations accountable.
Exactly. Yep.
To gather up more moisture, they develop more rapidly and bring higher rain rates and a higher risk of flooding into the Bay Area. And in some ways, we did see some aspects.
Well, then why don't you prepare for it? Catch that water, please. You're always complaining about how you're droughting. Okay, get some water ready.
Well, here's the thing: they do have water ready, but a lot of it is owned by the tech companies. Believe it or not, they actually have like servers that have like a big gallon of water that is water cooling a lot of these a lot of these power plants, but a lot of these other I want to say server farms. They're water cooling them, and in some cases they're owned by a lot of these IT companies. It's very it's becoming like cyberpunk up with that motherfucker. Yeah.
That from December into January, so storms that came in did bring some high snow levels, but the benefit obviously was the rainfall filling up our local reservoirs. Too much, too soon, also led to widespread flooding and ongoing landslides around.
I mean, when I was still living in California, they were always complaining about, we're suffering a drought, we're suffering a drought. Okay, well then prepare it. Now they're not prepared. Like, oh my gosh, we weren't prepared. Like, I don't live there anymore.
No, I don't live there anymore either. But apparently, my parents will tell me, you live in the desert, you have water. I'm like, well, yeah, I have water, because at the same time, if I don't, I will die. I literally have been in a position where my nose and my nostrils were totally dried out by the humidity of the freaking desert. And then someone gave me a bottle of water, and I'm like, well, thank you. That's actually very kind of you. Yeah.
Now, as of late April, as of Earth Day, that Sierra snowpack is still supersized. It's to the other side of the coin when it comes to flooding and runoff. It's the snowmelt season, which is really getting kickstarted by warming temperatures. So we look around California from the satellite view. You can see familiar bodies of water from Lake Tahoe, Mono Lake, Bay Area, San Luis Reservoir here, and now the Tulare Lake Basin also starting to fill.
So doesn't it mean that droughts are solved?
No, it doesn't. It can't be solved. We can never let we can never let it go to waste, dude. Because again, a lot of this stuff is mismanaged. A lot of this crap is mismanaged.
Yeah.
In many years will be that Tulare Lake Basin filling up with water, likely into the beginning of summer, which leads us to where our weather forecast and climate is likely to be moving forward. A continuation of those intense droughts, progressively hotter summer temperatures, at the same time winters having those high impact storms, but likely with higher snow levels through time. And that's an important factor as we look back at some of the weather whiplash we've experienced just the last 5 years. And Sacramento makes a good example of this when you take into account in 2021 in October, was the end of the longest dry spell for interior Northern California, 212 days.
Then prepare for it. Get more water if that's falling down. Get that snow. Get something. Prepare.
They won't do it. They won't do it because the state won't let them. All the water goes from the interstate, which is all red, by the way. Everyone who is not part of the coastal elite, the entire state of California is red. There's a reason why there's a notion that we should have Jefferson, the state of Jefferson, which is like Northern California, excluding the Bay Area and fucking Los Angeles.
Yeah, run yourselves in the ground. Let them have their own farms.
You let them have their gulags. Let them have everything. I sent you a link, Luke. Here's another one we could talk about. This is from a lot of people. Lot of people are coming out and realizing, the whole mental health culture is bullshit.
Oh, you just now found out, huh?
Oh, no, a lot. I like to think of myself as ahead of the curve.
I don't mean you, I mean the royal you, the alternative you.
Well, yeah, they just found out about it. They just found out about it. Poor suckers. Sargon has found out about it. And he probably found out about it right around the time he had kids, because they probably would have put his kids on fucking 10X or some sort of like Zoloft or something to shut off his fucking, to mess with his endocrine system.
So do I start here, or where do I start?
You will start, see if I can pull it up here, roughly at... let me pull it up for you. 1 second. I actually have it here.
Let's see at
no. I actually have the mark. 20 minutes. It is 20 minutes and 11 seconds.
Got it.
Go on.
You've just had a catastrophic accident where your family's died. I don't think it's abnormal to be depressed about that. I mean, that's perfectly reasonable. That's another thing as well, that medical professionals are too willing to medicalise normal human behaviour.
Yeah, I think you have to treat particularly harsh emotions like rage and depression as a immune reaction by your soul, to put it in a not glib way, but a bit of a metaphysical way. In that,
it's a fair way to put it, though.
Yeah, if you don't blame your immune system for flaring up and making you bedridden when it's fighting off a flu, because it's just the symptom of the flu means that it takes a lot of energy out of you. And so if you've had a bereavement or a breakup or a divorce or something like that, then you shouldn't blame yourself for feeling terrible about it. You're currently parceling through all the reasons why those events came into being so that you don't repeat the same mistakes.
I have a sort of idea of...
Yeah, and this is actually true. Like, if you're depressed because your first girlfriend, again, the context is you're in high school. It's your literally the first girl you've ever dated in your life. She breaks up with you, goes to somebody else, or she's just not a good person. She says, I don't want to be with you anymore. Any guy worth his fucking salt, any human being, you can even flip it around and say it was a girl dating a guy. She breaks up with her as in the exact opposite sort of scenario. any of them would be depressed and upset. It's the nature of human. It's the pathologization of the human condition, and a lot of people are calling this out. Keep going.
What a healthy person is someone who experiences the full spectrum of human emotions. You don't stunt yourself in one area. I don't think being happy 24/7 is actually healthy for you, and I also don't think it's possible. Because where there is a peak, there is a trough. So there's always a bit of give and take there, but that should just be expected. That's what life is like. Is what life is. You can't always have it going well for you, but that also means that when it does go well for you, you appreciate it all the more. So sort of yin and yang to it in a nice way that is kind of reassuring that the badness makes the good better. That's my kind of optimistic take on it. That's a rare point of optimism. But yeah, CBT just focuses on identifying these bad ideas, changing these sort of negative thoughts and attitudes that might be maladaptive and helpful, and they try and get people to make positive changes in their own life to mitigate these sorts of things. And this is also good, I think, because it makes people think about their mental health problems as something that they can actually solve themselves, that they can work on.
Exactly. And this is one of the reasons why I've been so much against the mental health system, because instead of, going out and taking a walk, which I'll just say it right now, that actually will help you a lot. Going out and taking a walk, hanging out with friends, don't be in a cubicle all day. Go touch grass, literally. Go take off go out and touch grass physically. Like, go out, lay down on the grass, and just feel the feeling of being around with the earth. Not to sound like a dirt worshipping heathen, but that's sort of what you need to do. You need to do that. But the problem here is, how is the pharmaceutical companies going to be able to sell you something, Luke? They're not going to be able to sell you a happy pill. They're not going to ever say, well, going to, let's say, work and being under an office cubicle for like 14 hours a day, and having those freaking LED lights, that's not healthy. They'll never say that, even though it probably is more unhealthy than anything else. Is eating the crappy food, let's say.
And you don't necessarily have to have a positive experience with plants. Like me, for example, I have weeds and grass I have to mow and take out, but I still have some contact with nature.
Yeah, exactly. Keep going.
It gives them a bit of power. You're not relying on some medical professional just to sign off on a drug. The authority is entirely in their hands. You're the one that's taking an active role in making yourself better. And I think that that's actually far more healthy to have a role in their own recovery, because it makes them feel like they have
implying they're sick to begin with. Because again, I don't think depression. I think depression is just part of being. It's like a rainy day. You would never say that rain is evil, that rain is horrible. Oh, hurricanes are horrible. No, they're just natural to that particular region of the world. Now, if let's say we're in the Sahara, let's say, and there was a giant hurricane followed by a snowstorm, yeah, you might be correct about that. But sadness, depression, joy, being ecstatic, like they used to have these things in, I think, in my school. I can see if I can pull up here, Luke. They were all the faces, like, how do you feel today? Like, I see if I can find it. Keep playing it, Luke. I'm gonna find one for you. Keep going.
Someone who's depressed is huge.
If I might make a suggestion as well, and this is no substitute for clinical interventions for people that are suicidal, but if, considering the long waiting lists we have in the UK, or the costliness of therapy overseas in places that don't get it subsidised, one thing you can do as a considerate friend is at least learn some of the basics of the principles of CBT, or just practice a compassionate form of Socratic questioning, and lend people a listening ear, because in lieu of some clinical intervention, people sometimes just need someone to talk to.
Mm-hmm. It does really help, even if you talk to someone and you get nothing out of it other than just expressing how you feel. That's still something valuable, isn't it? And just as I've got the opportunity,
I remember this shit. I remember the shit back in the day, back in the old days. You could tell. I'll just say it right now. Most people just say they're happy or sad or mad. They won't say confident. They won't say frustrated. They won't say hysterical. They won't say, no one thinks in that term. No one thinks like this. Nobody thinks like this. This is way too big of a spectrum. This is like going to make people, like, ecstatic, for example. He looks high. like how many of these people look fucking high?
Where's ecstatic?
There he is. That's the smackhead look. exhausted. And you know the thing that gets me is that some of these feelings are actually emotions, and some of these feelings are also actual physical feelings.
Guilty. Oh wow, guilty. That's a feeling.
Yeah, guilty is a feeling, but I don't think it's a physical feeling. I think there's a physical angle behind it. Smug. Frickin' A.
There it is.
Oh, jealous apparently looks way more pissed off than he actually should be. How is jealous? Let's see, jealous, and then we have, let's see, where is it? Jealous was angry. Yeah, angry looks pissed off. Jealous looks like he's gonna fucking, like he's holding his wife, his divorce papers or some shit. Sheesh.
Yeah. Is that Love Struck next to it?
Wait, Love Struck?
Yeah, next to.
Oh my god! How is Love Struck considered a feeling? How is it like?
Well,
I've
can
never
be. I mean, like you first fall in love, yeah.
That could be, yeah, but even then, like, what does that consist of? Does that like having butterflies in your stomach?
Probably.
Maybe.
You see a pretty like you're like, well, it's Charlie Brown every time the redheaded girl shows up.
Well, yeah, I mean, whenever the redheaded girl shows up, regardless, yeah, I would be like that.
Anywho,
let's see if what did Spirit Science? I think he was going to upload something else. You know, let's continue with this whole watching the God thing. We continued with that. I think we should get back into it. Here we go.
Oh,
here we go. We're going to continue with Spirit Science before we continue going anywhere. Actually, you know what? No. We're going to do something else. Thank you, YouTube algorithm. You are truly my greatest ally.
What is it?
Here we go. We're going to watch it because now, again, in my defense, I didn't get access to 420. I didn't get high on 420. All right? I didn't because I have to get a job and I can't work at a liquor store all my life. Here you go. We're gonna freaking figure out.
Oh, solar plexus spirit shirts are here.
Yeah,
this is 4 years ago.
This is 4 years ago, but you know, Spirit Science is the well that keeps on. He's the life spring that will keep giving us more and more clicks. Prepares for Spirit Science, Holy Mystic mode, prepared for defense. You do it, Betty. Let's do it.
They're invoking Carl Sagan. You know it's serious.
So what does he say?
The
illegality of cannabis is outrageous, and impairment to the full utilization of a drug which helps produce a serenity
and insight, sensitivity and fellowship so depressingly needed that it is increasingly mad and dangerous in this increasingly mad and dangerous world.
Oh, get the fuck out of here. You're high as a kite when you wrote that. Keep going. He was high. Look at him. Wants to eat a cheeseburger.
Hello, everyone. Great to see you.
Hi.
As you're probably aware, Canada just legalized cannabis. As residents of this country, Spirit Science Crew felt that there was no better time for us to open up and talk about cannabis and its influence in our lives and the world. Truth is, for a really long time, I found it difficult to discuss cannabis and other types of psychoactive plants because they're illegal! So I often kept the conversation on the down low, choosing to focus on other things with spirit science. However, it's such an important conversation because cannabis can serve as a powerful bridge between spirituality and science, or experience and measurement. Now, there is a brilliant man named David Schmader who recently did a TED Talk called Stoners Coming Out, which sets the stage for this conversation in a really articulate way.
It's a TEDx talk. Fuck off. No, seriously.
No, it was 4 years ago. Give him a break.
But it was dude, it's TEDx. Like, they literally had Sam Hyde on. I'm just saying, like, they literally had Sam Hyde on. They had Anita Sarkeesian on. They have anybody on. If it's a TED Talk, fine. But if it's a TEDx talk, that's when they'll start getting the crazies in there, you know? Yeah.
Have you ever really looked at your hand? I tell that joke because according to lore, people high on marijuana are amazed by their limbs, often while slow-motion speed-eating Doritos in their parents' basement. I hate this joke because it invokes a stereotype that is reductive at best and supports a system of diabolical lies at work. I'm getting ahead of myself. My name is David Schmader, and I am a pothead.
No, you're not.
By this, I mean
don't call your stone. No, that's like the equivalent of Jim Goad, you know, trying to cooperate the freaking the identity of being a smackhead as like say, I am a smackhead. I am not a pedophile, good sir. I am a minorly attracted person. Thank you very much. I am not chemically addicted to alcohol or weed. I am. What's up?
I'm not a thief. I'm not a bad person. I'm just a kleptomaniac.
Yep. Keep going.
Enjoy an adult intoxicant. I will forego beer, wine, and spirits.
No one takes pride in being a drunk.
No one does. And even then, like, let me just say this. You could have weed and you could have alcohol and you'll have some of the best time of your life. I guarantee you.
Yeah, I wouldn't know.
You wouldn't know. I know.
I mean, I wouldn't know combined, so.
The pot calling the kettle high is what you're hearing, what I'm hearing. Yes, it is. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed, Holy Mystic.
For me,
yes,
offers
indeed.
a world of nuanced delight and inspiration beyond the more crude effects of booze. But I am not here to proselytize. And
you are.
You're in a TEDx talk. Of course you're proselytizing.
You literally are doing exactly what you're claiming not to be. You're just not consciously aware of it.
Time, I kept quiet about my own enjoyment of weed. It was illegal for most of the time I was enjoying it. Why make myself vulnerable as an out and proud lawbreaker if I didn't have to? I also dreaded being saddled with the stoner stereotype of having
get over it. That's like the equivalent of some fucking OnlyFans thought bitching about oh my god, I don't want to be called a whore, yet I sell my body and I sell my image of my body online to horny, fanboys.
I mean, gamers and comic books and manga fans have to get over their negative stereotypes, and so do you.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe if you got off your ass and actually did some work and then came home and, instead of cracking a brewski or a Bud Light like freaking Dylan Mulvaney, maybe you could actually, get high like Cheech and Chong. At least, and, say what you will about Cheech and Chong. They're actually very fucking intelligent people, all things considering. I mean, Cheech was a kick-ass Jeopardy contestant, apparently.
Oh.
Yeah. But then again, so was Ian Miles Chung, so go figure.
The pothead. So what if I used weed not to escape, but to engage with art and ideas and food and dogs and hilariously terrible movies? I was but one man, and I couldn't reconfigure society's image of the pothead.
This talk is relevant for several reasons. The first is that now that cannabis is becoming legalized, we have to change and evolve our stereotypes and our understanding of what it is, which is one of the...
Do we really have to?
No, we don't have to.
We don't have to do that, Luke. Not at all. I mean, like, again, I will not say that I have, like, religious experiences on fucking weed. I may feel like I'm having a religious experience, but that doesn't necessarily make it so, now does it?
Yeah, I mean, I've tried to have a religious experience, but it was just impossible, because it is a chemical roller coaster ride. It will take you on a ride, and you have no option but to be on it.
So I'm going to tell you this story about when I was getting high for my 21st birthday. So I got high. I decided to, have my friend and my brother bring his friends over, and we were all going to get high and drink alcohol and shit. And apparently they all brought their own weed. Now, anybody who's recreational drug user knows this is bullshit. You don't bring your own weed. You don't get high on other people who you never met. So somebody decided to apparently spike the weed with fucking, I think it was mescaline. So I was getting high as a kite, and I was actually tripping balls to the point where I think I may have heard God's voice, to be honest with you.
Ooh. Oh no!
And it said, "Get up, get up, get up! You're not safe, you're a soldier." And I had to walk home from my dad's place at one point, all the way, which it wasn't that far. It was about 5 miles, but it wasn't that. That's not that far. I'm actually a good walker. I'm a fucking Californian, for fuck's sake. So we walk everywhere. Point is that I would never do that again. Okay? And I'll keep going. I don't know why I'm bringing that up.
Episode. The other thing he mentioned, though, about using cannabis to engage with art and ideas and what have you, is something I want to bring our focus to.
If you can.
This concept
fucking AI art.
Recently heard elsewhere, but in an entirely different way. It was the scientist Dr. Alan Lightman who said something very similar in a debate that he had with Richard Dawkins. This will probably seem unrelated at first, but I promise we'll bring it back around.
And I lay down in the boat.
Oh, the druggie is going to lecture the atheist about religious experience. Of course.
I'm telling you, dude, Dawkins was a mistake. I mean, what did he do? Besides, what was he, like, famous for before he got into the whole...
The God delusion?
Yeah.
Nothing?
Biology, right? He invented the whole concept of memes.
Right.
And then using that concept of memes, he understood that he could market his bullshit through atheism as opposed to like a scientific journal, and thus become more popular. This is exactly how Bill Nye the Science Guy did it, and look what happened to him.
What's really dumb about the notion of the meme as he presents it is he talks about memes as a virus, but no one thinks about memes as viruses at all.
Yeah, exactly. And then I look at it as a marketing strategy. I mean, there's a reason why whenever I talk about the occult, I put Stolas's name in the freaking tag. Specifically because I know that there will be that one chance, although it may be small, for Sticks, Hex, and Hammer to type in Stolas and he sees my fucking podcast. Not because because we're talking about Stolas, because we name drop Stolas and therefore he becomes relevant. It's like you're using the demons and the gods and what have you as a way to market yourself. If you don't believe me, for this to work, look at what happened to LaVey's Church of Satan. Without Satan, he would not be anything. Without that marketing tactic, he would just be a fucking dumb hippie in San Francisco. Keep going.
After a few minutes, I felt...
Speed him up. He's going to taste spaghetti speed.
That star-littered sky. I felt like I was falling into infinity. I felt like I was becoming part of the stars. My body disappeared. In the vast expanse of time from the long distant past, long before I was born, long distant future, long after I would be dead, that vast expanse of time seemed compressed to a dot. I felt like I was connected not only to the stars, but to all of nature and the entire cosmos.
And Richard Dawkins is probably looking at him and go, I don't care, you're having a you're having a psychedelic experience, it's not relevant.
You're not happy, you're on drugs. That's quite literally why we'd be saying, you're not happy, you're on drugs. Fucking hell.
I felt emerging something much bigger than myself. After a while, I sat up and started the engine again.
I mean, for me, it actually was kind of important to make you realize, oh yeah, chemicals can mess you up. Like this realization, oh yeah, these things have power over you and you can be tricked. You can manipulate.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, absolutely. I mean, look at the whole, what was ayahuasca originally designed for? What was it used for by the natives? It wasn't to do psychedelic experience and to get high, like, we're all stoned. It was designed for when you were about to sacrifice somebody, that they would go quietly into the night as you chop off their head and then push them down a freaking flight of stairs. Like the Mayan, like it's Apocalypto or something, right?
Right.
Yeah. So the idea that you could be a lamb to slaughter, and that's just something to use to like ease your pain, so you accept your fucking death. That's never brought up in these fucking topics.
If you can smell purple, you're not high. You're sniffing grapes while in the fridge, raiding the fridge.
Yeah.
Well, I would imagine that many of you have had similar experiences, and I'll call it the transcendent experience. The transcendent experience cannot be understood quantitatively or logically.
Then
Certainly
fuck
not
off.
in the manner in which a physicist can calculate how many seconds it will take the ball to hit the floor.
But is it transcendental? But is a high a transcendental experience? You're just manipulating chemicals in your brain.
Exactly. You're literally just controlling people's, supply of dopamine and a bunch of other neurotransmitters and neuropeptides. That's really what you're doing. And the sad part about this whole thing is that they're going to try to make this as, oh, that's the reason why all these pagan cultures were experiencing gods and deities, because they were all just high, bro.
I mean, yeah. One of the arguments against the resurrection of Christ was that all the apostles just got high after the crucifixion.
Yeah, they just got stoned to cope. They took the copium quite literally in this regard. Ooh.
Brought from a height of 2 meters. When I was lying in that boat, looking up at the sky at night, you could have hooked up every one of my 100 billion neurons to a vast computer and gotten the electrical readout on every single one of them. You still would not have remotely understood the feeling that I had.
Who cares?
Thank you,
Keep going.
Alan. That was beautiful. Now, this had absolutely nothing to do with cannabis. I choose to share this with you today, though, because I believe it explains a beautiful phenomenon of life, a sense of quantum conscious engagement, where you experience something beyond yourself in a profound way. Bridge the spirit and the science.
Yeah, it's always weird how cartoons and animation always tries to pick a high as this weird psychedelic color wave experience. It's like, no, that's not what it feels like. That's not at all. I mean, I know you're trying to use colors and movement to try to illustrate what it feels like, but it's nothing like that.
No, it's not. In fact, if anything, I'll just say it, when I got high for the first time, I actually felt a lot of stuff let go. I felt like I let go of a lot of what I was holding on to. And a lot of it, the stuff I was holding on to, I needed to let go of. But at the same time, I let go of it. I would have let go of it originally by myself. I would have never done it without I would have done it without psychedelics. That's what I'm trying to get across, or without drugs. I had 2 psychedelics willingly. Keep going.
All we have to do is look to Dr. Carl Sagan. Most people don't know this, but this famous scientist was actually a closeted advocate for cannabis and its legalization, and spoke on it as something which helped him.
A closeted advocate. So he was,
I don't know.
was he closeted or not?
Well, I mean, he has a quote here. I mean, where was the quote from? So a dopamine rush. Yeah, exactly.
Better understand himself, art, music, and lovemaking. This is how what Dr. Lightman said is relative to the cannabis conversation, because cannabis, while not really a psychedelic in the traditional sense, does offer an experience which can be deeply moving and powerfully healing, if used properly.
Cannabis, in my view, is another of the great and powerful teachers. We cannot really argue that cannabis is a psychedelic, although at high dosages, particularly with individuals who are not experienced with cannabis, experience is pretty close to a full-on psychedelic.
Let me just say this. When he says not experienced, he's basically talking about people who don't have that shit in their system. Like, I can't even do... Like, one of the things they talk about is that weed is basically a gateway drug. It is. Because eventually, just like with alcohol, you grow a tolerance to something.
Mm-hmm.
And if you go... Like, when I can't even get high like I did in my 20s anymore. So there's no point in taking it. You're just going to chase that high like a fucking drug addict. Well, like a drug addict, you're not trying to trace the transcendental anymore. You're just trying to trace a high. You know, again, you're not happy. You're on drugs. Keep going.
The world has been bounteous to us. It has provided us with, well, of course, all our food and clothing and everything comes out of nature, and it's provided us with these substances that alter consciousness as well.
And with a little technology, we're able to produce a lot more than ever could provide, but never mind that.
Yeah, and if you're going to play it because it's nature, it's natural, it's good, fuck off. There are plenty of things...
Anthrax is natural.
What about the cordyceps? That's a nature. Cordyceps are in nature. Pufferfish venom. No, like legitimately, pufferfish venom's in freaking nature, and they're legitimately like voodoo witch doctors who will fucking drug people and then put them into human trafficking, like zombies, actual fucking zombies, where they'll get buried alive, and then because the culture says people die, and then therefore you're no longer a person anymore because you're unperson, you're dead, right? They have nowhere to go, and you could basically human traffic people that way.
Relationship. As a young patchling, first time I ever used cannabis, it allowed me to fully relax and wind down, which really helped me during a time when I had a lot of built-up anger from bullying and repression. Later on in life, cannabis was really the medicine I needed to have my first real transcendental experience, which to me felt exactly like the story that Alan Lightman just described. Ultimately, this experience is what eventually led to the creation of spirit science. Today, my heart sings with joy that we're socially allowed to talk.
So spirit science was created from a high experience. Of course it was.
It all makes sense now, Luke, doesn't it?
Talk about this out in the open without it feeling weird. The breath of fresh air. Let this video be the beginning of a thesis towards an examination of transcendental experience.
Although, I mean, do you remember my Born Again video, or did you ever see it?
I don't think I've ever saw it.
Well, basically, what's the irony, of course, when we're criticizing this, is that I did tie it to being high, because I did have it before my Born Again experience. I have had smoked marijuana, and so I was drawing parallels between the two, and the parallels was how completely different it was.
Yeah, you need to be able to achieve like being happy and joyful on your own without a substance, because eventually what will happen is you will become addicted to that substance, not only on like the psychological level, but the chemical level as well. They're finding out that some of these SSRIs, like going back to the whole Sargon video, right? The Lotus Eaters video, they were pointing out that some of these people cannot make serotonin anymore because they've been, jazzed up on big pharma's, cocktail to the point where they can't even freaking, make serotonin properly. So they do commit suicide because they're addicted to it. But they never will tell you that. Like I've often said, the reason why people kill themselves on these drugs is because when they try to get off of it, they try to gain independence. They go through withdrawal, but they don't tell you they go through withdrawals. They don't tell you about benzo withdrawals, which is a real thing. Keep going.
Experiences, science, psychedelics, medicine, consciousness, and love.
He's like Casper the fucked up high ghost. He really is Casper the fucked up ghost.
Throughout history, cannabis has been used in a multitude of ways in our lives. It produces food, fabric, clothing, paper, cosmetics, paints, biofuels, and building materials.
That's negotiable.
What about corn? What about corn? Like literally, what about corn? Corn does like that and more.
Yeah, but not as well or as well or.
That's debatable. It depends. It varies from product to product.
This hemp brick is a carbon negative building material. Really.
I'm telling you, dude, the cult wants to sell you. They want to sell you. They want to get you to join in. They want you to join into the brave new world.
Like, how much hemp do you need to make a brick?
Well, let's see. We got hemp, lime, water, incredible insulation.
Get me back on the screen.
There we go.
Building material.
Strong and lightweight and breathable.
Energy efficient, naturally non-toxic, lasts 100 years of hundreds of years. Flame, water, and pest resistance. I think again, I wouldn't trust it. I really wouldn't trust any of this shit. Keep going.
And that's not even counting its variety of uses as a medicine or its value as a spiritual tool. The use of cannabis goes back thousands of years and is one of the oldest plant medicines in recorded history, with evidence of it being used in 8000 BCE and signs that we grew it as a crop as early as 5000 BC. Many theorists, Carl Sagan included, use this to suggest that it might have been the original plant we ever started growing at the birth of agriculture.
Use of cannabis can basically.
Really?
Oh yeah, this is some heresy right here. Because going back to that, I don't know if you could pull up the same Mandrake video from that crazy guy, right? Or that psychedelic guy, right? He was just saying that Mandrake root was originally the tree of light or the tree of knowledge. He was going to get into that. Like, if you can go, let's see if I can pull up for you exactly what time in that. Jumping around. Yeah, keep going. Right there.
Slaughter all of humanity. However, after seeing all of the human devastation, the sun god saw the light. Wanting to now save humanity, Ra ordered the brewing of mandrake-laced beers on an island called Elephantine, which is on the Nile River. This beer was then mixed with the blood of our fallen comrades. As it turned out, Hathor had quite the affinity for drinking people's blood. The trick worked. Drinking the mandrake beer mellowed Hathor's harsh, and she stopped her slaughter of all humanity. So every year, during the Feast of Hathor, which correlates to our September 17th, people of Dendara and other parts of Egypt would drink this mandrake-laced beer in celebration of how it saved humanity. Others believe that this highly psychoactive plant was actually the forbidden fruit that Eve and Adam ate in the Garden of Eden.
What?
I'm telling you, these pagans are trying their damnedest to get you high on their fucking bullshit because they'll have control of it. They will have control of all these herbs. It's literally like they're fighting the cartels almost.
As C.S. Lewis put it best, a man with an addiction has very little sales resistance.
Absolutely. Holy mystic, spiritual tool, bullshit. Bullcrap. It is bullcrap. Holy mystic also says, would the substance mess with your natural chemical balance in a certain situations? Yes, it would. Yes, it would. Keep going.
The 2nd century Greek proto-scientific text called Physiologus makes just this claim. To marshal her case, the anonymous author of Physiologus brings up an odd behavior among elephants, an animal with seemingly no desire to fornicate. However, if they wanted to have a romantic evening, they should travel eastward towards paradise, where there is a tree called Mandragora. The elephant and his wife represent Adam and Eve. For when they were pleasing to God before their provocation of the flesh, they knew nothing of copulation, nor had they knowledge of sin.
Oh, come on. What? Wait, the Mandrake is
Why
the
is
original
everything
sin? What is the tree of knowledge of good and evil?
Yeah.
But that brought death and sin and misery and pain into the world. Like, why is that a good thing?
Well, maybe because they had too much knowledge. Keep in mind, Mandrake is basically it's dose dependent, right? So you got way too high. You were way too high. You were going for too much knowledge, my friend.
But I thought the original fruit was in a tree and therefore could be seen. It wasn't a root. Isn't Mandrake a root?
It is a root, but they also has a plant. It has a plant that pops out. So it's like a carrot essentially.
Of course.
Anyhow.
When Eve ate of the tree of knowledge, which is what Mandragora means, and gave one of the fruits to Adam, they had to clear out of paradise. In short, Mandrake was one of the most highly sought-after sex drugs of the ancient world.
I mean, God commanded Adam and Eve to go forth and multiply before they had their falling out. So clearly, sex wasn't a problem then.
Yeah, well, now you know where Cain came from, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, she was just blitzed out of her fucking mind when she had Cain.
Oh no. Oh no.
I know, right?
Oh no.
It's epigenetic.
They were high when writing this, maybe.
Maybe. Well, he looks high as a kite. I mean, look at those fucking eyes.
Like Sulla's Law, and in Hebraic sources like the Book of Genesis. It also appears in Greek literature as a magical plant growing in the garden of that most famous witch, Medea. There's also an erotic comedy by the Greek playwright Alexis called Mandrake Zamini, meaning the mandrake drugged woman. Fortunately, this play survives only in fragments. During medieval and early modern times, we see people using
How do you know it was a
mandrake
play,
for both
though?
mystical.
How do you know it was a play?
I guess the intro it had enough of it to see like the structure. I guess.
I guess. I don't know.
And numinous qualities. Both Orthodox Christians and not-so-Orthodox wise women, who would eventually be accused of witchcraft, used it for its psychoactive and soporific potential.
Yes, that's why it's called witchcraft.
It's pharmakia. Pharmakia. That's what it is. It's sorcery. And by the way, before people start saying, no, the Jews did not do this stuff. They were one of the exceptions in the medieval in antiquity who would not do drugs. And that's why, our religion and our law is the law of the West. Because we weren't getting high and marrying baboons and freaking camels. Keep going.
On one side, we see Orthodox Christians using mandrake to enter the Godhead. The 12th century Christian writer Thomas of Persane called this practice the good sleep of the eternal. The idea was to take a large enough dose of mandrake, though of course
Citation needed, please.
Citation needed. No.
Not to kill you, but to knock yourself into this experiential dream of Christ's love and forgiveness.
I'm pretty sure that was the cross and the crucifixion.
The fact that they're trying to find Christ through a bottle is really, really, really concerning.
I mean,
it really is.
People try to find God. They find God through drugs and sex. Why wouldn't they try to find Jesus through it? Ugh.
Or, as Persane himself writes, for the mandragoras symbolize aspiration through contemplation. This tranquility makes it possible for a person to fall asleep of such delightful sweetness that they will no longer feel anything of the cutting which their earthly enemies visit upon them, that they no longer pay attention to any worldly things. For the soul has now closed its eyes to all that is outside. It lies in the good sleep of the eternal.
That sounds like
therefore they're perfect slaves now.
That sounds like a good roofie drug, actually.
It does, and then that's why I say everyone's like, oh, you're just being a crazy Christian. Well, let me ask you a question. If these people are actually like historical sorcerers, then roofing someone is an actual tactic. There's a reason why they have concepts of the cupbearer. You know what a cupbearer is, Luke? A cupbearer is somebody who would drink and eat out of.
Oh yeah.
Would drink the wine and like they drink first for like a VIP, like let's say the king or a queen. They would drink the wine first, test it to see if it would kill them, and if it didn't kill him, then the king would eat it or drink it.
Food taster.
That's it. A food taster, exactly. So you don't a professional one. Granted, someone could be trying to kill you, and they could spike, let's say, the punch, but you would know it before they did. But you get to live in luxury,
Additionally, as Christians slowly overtook the pagan traditions of yore, they changed the sex magic potential of mandrake into one that was far more prude. Both Petrus Hispanus and Hildegard of Bingen say that mandrake was a great way to quell sexual desires. Hispanus writes of an ointment made of mandrake, opium, and henbane that should be rubbed on the testicles to extinguish all thoughts of lust from a man's mind. Hildegard has a far more elaborate.
Thank God for the scientific method. Thank God for the seriously. Thank God for the scientific method, because I'm not, for as much as I'm going to bash pagans, I will also bash Christians as well for doing stupid shit like that. Keep going.
It should be washed. Then it should be affixed to the abdomen for 3 days. After that, the mandrake root should be split in two and affixed to both sides for an additional 3 days. Then it should be ground up and drunk, and this would relieve the person of any carnal thoughts. However,
That's a very long process to take care of your carnal thoughts.
It's almost as if the whole process of doing it is like wearing a branch of broccoli so you could become perfect, and then realizing in the process of doing that hey, you don't need to fucking become perfect or something. It's very similar to that. Keep going.
Hispanus and Hildegard tried to change the sex magic traditions of mandrake. They were up against deep-rooted beliefs among the population. As such, they failed spectacularly. Even as late as the 1500s, which was centuries after Hispanus and Hildegard lived, people were still using mandrake for its sex magic potential. We know this because the Renaissance magician Heinrich Cornelius Agrippa von Nettesheim wrote that after taking mandrake, a person could fulfill Venus pleasure 70 times. And that was the only.
Oh God, they discovered Viagra.
Oh no.
Fucking hair. Like, why does everything have to be with sex? Like, I'll just say this right now. People talk about all the degenerates and the whores on Instagram and shit like that and OnlyFans. We're very much like in ancient Greek. Like that's what I think our culture is like. They gave a lot about if the women were on top or not. I don't care about that shit. But there's just way too much thought into like getting like the best sex out of these things. It's ridiculous.
As I mentioned a moment ago, wise women, who would eventually be accused of witchcraft, also used mandrake for what we would call its psychedelic or entheogenic properties. Wise women would often mix mandrake into ointments, along with things like opium, henbane, and belladonna, so that they could knock themselves into these deep but lucid trance states and walk in the trail of a goddess.
And give them to their mates, I'm sure.
Yeah, they give it to their mates and roofie them, and then basically, groom these women essentially.
Or followers, I should say.
Yep, and this is why we have to start busting them. Like we have to start becoming DEA on these motherfuckers. Yeah.
Other times, they would use these same kinds of mandrake ointments to transvect or transport in spirit to mountaintops where they would encounter supernatural entities and heroes from legend, all of which was normally overseen by a goddess. Moreover, the 16th
So basically,
century
she basically got high, and as a result of that, she has a bunch of like psychedelic experiences, and therefore it has to be taken as actual legitimacy and not just as a fucking stoned out of her fucking mind crazy woman.
Yeah.
What's up?
Nothing. Wrong clip.
Keep going.
of Oberon tells how people were using Mandrake to see spirits. However, the Book of Oberon does not mention Mandrake by name. So, how do I know that the author was talking about Mandrake? Simple. In order to see spirits, one had to employ what was called herba lucens, or the herb of light. And we know from folklore that the Mandrake was going all the way back to the 1st century of the Common Era. The historian Josephus writes that Mandrake sends out a certain ray of light. 2 later texts.
So therefore, it must be exactly what he's talking about. Even though he's gonna bring up Flavius Josephus, which is one of the only people who talked about Jesus Christ as an actual historical figure. So then, therefore, it must be this. And I'm thinking, no, it's not. It's not.
I mean, he was one of the best historians, non-Roman historians of his time. So
exactly, and even then, Flavius can be incorrect. He absolutely can be.
Old English herbarium and the 12th century Harley manuscript state that Mandrake shines at night like a lamp. I'd like to end this video by unpacking.
But does it?
Does it really? I don't know.
Do we have any examples of that?
What does the scientific consensus say about that?
Why I call Mandrake a psychedelic or an entheogen. You see, when I call it that, sometimes people get a little testy about it, but here's why I refer to it as such. If people are using Mandrake to see spirits, fly through the air, communicate with a goddess, that is psychedelia. That is entheogenic, albeit a more primitive form of psychedelia or entheogenism, but psychedelia and entheogenism nonetheless. Additionally,
it's schizophrenia. It's schizophrenogen. It's a schizophrenogen. You're literally inducing psychosis. That's what you're doing. Anyhow, let's go back to spirit science.
Followed by the spread of Indo-European language. And we're talking about the root language of French, German, English, Sanskrit, is wherever it goes. As soon as it's there, it starts taking on new names, the giver of delights, the end of sorrow, the gift, the secret, all these different names start coming into play.
In ancient China, a non-psychoactive strain of cannabis sativa, also known as industrial hemp, was grown for its medicinal and practical properties. In ancient India, cannabis indica was grown and written about for its transcendent effects. It made its way through Egypt, and it was grown throughout the rise of Europe. In fact, when European settlers came to the Americas, it was grown for the conquest and expansion of the American Empire. Even George Washington grew it. It was so important.
Oh, back up.
Most of you can
hemp seed. The hemp may be sown anywhere.
And it can't be. Here's the thing, though. For you to actually get high off of marijuana, you actually have to smoke it's a female plant that is not pollinated. So you're quite literally. So how do plants pollinate, Luke?
Well, by having good contact with the other parts of the plant.
With a male plant. And what do we call the pollen? Angiosperm.
Ah.
So you have to be able. So in order for you to get high off of these female plants, they have to be untouched by a male plant, i.e., virgin plants.
Mm-hmm.
So you're literally sacrificing female virgins to get high.
Well,
fucking dirty pagans, mate. The dirty heathens need to be put in their place.
Well, plant virgins, but
well, you're kill. Well, don't let ABC know that or NBC know that. Keep going.
Washington grew it. It was so important to the developing United States that they actually put it on their $10 bill.
Where? Right here?
That's grain.
That's cannabis sativa.
How do you know it's sativa? That looks like fucking grain.
Yeah,
it looks like wheat.
Grain. Yeah, it looks like grain right here.
Looks like wheat. It's wheat.
So how did it become illegal? In a word, racism. In a few words,
racism.
Well, what was that documentary about cannabis, like mania? What was that documentary? The movie
Reefer
called?
Madness.
Reefer Madness. That's it.
Fuck.
Racism and control. In the early 1900s, an influx of Mexican immigrants came to the U.S. With them came the practice of smoking cannabis recreationally, and it took off.
Talk it out, man.
Many early prejudices against cannabis were really just thinly veiled racist fears of its smokers, often made worse by reactionary newspapers such as those owned by the Hearst chain. The African-American community also began to pick up on cannabis, so that reinforced this racial fear, feeding into the stereotype that was used to make it illegal in the 1930s. Now, this is where our story gets interesting, and even a bit scandalous. To be clear, many cannabis historians have written about this, but it isn't historical theory, as there are some parts which are difficult to prove. The story goes that in the early 1900s, there was a large industry that was rapidly emerging in America: cars. This industry required a lot of different parts to produce: metals, fabrics, rubbers, etc. Now enter a man named Andrew Mellon. He was the U.S. Secretary of Treasury, who also happened to be the head of Mellon Bank. It is believed that Mellon Bank had a large investment in DuPont Petrochemical, and helped them to acquire General Motors, the makers of cars. At that time, DuPont was also involved with the development of nylon, a synthetic fiber made from fossil fuels. The story says that Andrew Mellon saw an opportunity for his monopoly to grow, but also saw that cannabis hemp, being so useful, could take business away from DuPont, making a lot of different materials needed for these cars. So he got a job for his nephew-in-law, Harry Anslinger, who took the lead position of the Department of Prohibition in Washington, D.C. in 1929.
We're getting into like Lincoln levels of freaking corruption. Where I'll be honest with you, I really do think that this type of corruption, so to speak, or like monopolization, robber bearer shit. Like either the robber bearers didn't exist or they did, right? Is any of this shit illegal at the time, Luke?
Apparently not.
Apparently not. So then what do we care? It happened. Get over it. Move on.
Alcohol was a disaster, ending only 13 years after it began. Anslinger then found himself in charge of a huge government department that had nothing to do. Up until that point, he had said that cannabis didn't harm people or make people violent. But then, suddenly, when his department needed a new purpose, Anslinger announced that he had changed his mind. Keep in mind, a lot of people in power back then were deeply racist people. The government began putting out outrageous...
They still are now, and just in the other way.
They still are. And keep in mind, this is back in the day when you could take like opium to like cure headaches and shit. And cocaine was in freaking Coca-Cola. No, real talk. It was. Keep going.
Racist and derogatory claims, such as that cannabis made men of color try to solicit sex from white women, and that it caused you to fall into a delirious rage, eventually making you go insane. They called it marijuana, the weed with roots in hell. This created tremendous fear and hate towards both cannabis and ethnic minorities. Cannabis was made illegal, and it remained this way for a very long time. Now, right around the time that this whole thing happened, DuPont filed its patent on nylon, and this synthetic fiber took over a large part of the textile and cordage markets that otherwise would have gone to the hemp industry. More than half the American cars on the road were built by GM, which DuPont had massive shares in at the time, and they began producing all of the paints, varnishes, plastics, and rubbers for these cars, all of which could have been made by hemp. For the record, yes, hemp plastic and hemp rubber are very real and very useful. In fact, Henry Ford made an entire car out of hemp. And finally, all cars...
Oh, come on.
We see.
Really? He made an entire car out of hemp. Let's see. Ford's grown from the soil. Hemp car. One of... Okay, so the metal is made out of hemp as well?
Yeah, one of Henry Ford's first cars ran entirely on hemp ethanol. The body was also constructed from hemp plastic, which was 10 times stronger than steel. Of course, hemp was then outlawed. Okay, so
well, what type of steel? What type of steel?
It's a plastic that's 10 times stronger than steel, apparently.
Yeah, but what type of steel? Like, we're talking like...
Steel.
I don't know. I don't know. More research would need to be done into this because I don't believe that shit for a second. I really don't.
Of course, with the legalization of hemp, when people only want to smoke, they're not going to use it for anything else.
Exactly. Like it's like the argument from the internet. Like, oh, we have this wonderful information highway. We could learn so much. How many people actually use the internet to learn stuff instead of watching cat videos? For every person wanting to learn about the Magna Carta, there's that one guy who wants to like see what a cat's reaction like this. Let me show you, Luke.
Ooh. All right.
So find here. Let me see. Okay, tastes. There we go. This is what we're dealing with. This is what happens when you get high on your own supply. Luke. What is this? This is getting high. Lol, you're going to owe me a keyboard and monitor. I laughed so fucking hard. Oh, Jesus Christ.
What is this?
Here we go. This is why you don't do drugs, ladies and gentlemen. Poor thing.
Oh, poor sucker.
Poor little sucker. You're gonna. I hope to God I didn't actually make you laugh that hard, mate. I hope not. I mean, anyhow, let's see what else we got
Well,
here.
is
Okay, so here I sent you another
lying
one.
to you. What is it?
Yes, this is actually one of the few atheists that I actually could tolerate because he doesn't try to market himself as an atheist. He markets himself as a skeptic.
Mm-hmm.
You know. So let's look at this. This is actually
If
something
you're
that
a
I found
fan
very
of Dennis
interesting.
Prager and/or the Daily Wire, I think you're going to want to see this. What follows is a segment from a video we recently produced on the notion that the religious are happier than non-religious. But it deserves a spotlight because, by my lights at least, it's proof that Dennis Prager and the Daily Wire think that their audience, you, idiots. Put it this way, one of the sources I tend to visit did what you're about to see. I'd have a very serious problem. Here it is. You make of it what you will.
So let me give you some data from the National Institutes of Health, National Library of Medicine. Data suggests that adherence to religious beliefs is associated with lower rates of suicide. Say that that's significant. A number of factors have been hypothesized to explain this association, including enhanced social support, less substance abuse.
I don't know about that.
Psycho-
Oh, I don't know about the enhanced rates of substance abuse or less rates of substance abuse. There are plenty of people out there who are very much religious who would probably think that the trees speak to them when they're stoned out of their fucking mind. But what do I know? Keep going.
Pathology. That's all. That's all religion gives you. Let's review that. Enhanced social support, less substance abuse, and lower rates of psychopathology. Pretty powerful.
Do you want to know what's actually?
Yeah, please
showing
tell
the
me.
title of one study, namely Religion and Suicide, two findings, but when zooming in, showing an abstract from a completely different study. A study titled Religious Beliefs Buffer the Impact of Depression on Suicide Ideation. To make this clearer, here on the left you can see the study that Dennis reads the title of, and on the right you can see the abstract of a completely different study he zooms into.
That's all.
Except it's not all, is it, Dennis? Because you didn't just read a completely different abstract, but evidently added your own paragraph to it. Yeah, here on the left is what the actual study's abstract states, whereas here on the right is the screenshot Dennis shows and reads out to his audience. You can even see above his added paragraph that it's the same abstract. It's even got the same font, text colours, and the same keywords. So did Dennis and his team add their own text to a study to bolster their case? Are
They did.
Seriously that crooked?
Oh boy.
That is fucking like again. This is the type of shit I want to see. This is the reason I like rationality rules. There's a reason why I say subscribe to this guy because he's actually honest about his skepticism. He probably would be like, yeah, there are atheists out there who are just as dogmatic as any Christian out there. There are just as many, Christians who are equally as skeptical as, let's say, some of the most hardened atheists. And he would probably agree with me on that in a lot of cases. But this is the type of pushback we need against the right wing, because if they're willing to clip one part of an abstract and put it in front of another one, specifically to bolster an argument for, let's be frank with ourselves, it's not actually religion they're talking about, it's Christianity they're talking about. This shit will make people not want to join Christianity. This shit will make people go absolutely against Christianity as a result of this. So them lying is actually hurting the cause.
Yeah, I mean, that could not have been an accident. There is no way. When you're editing a video, things like that don't happen by accident.
It's fucking insane, mate. I don't know. You can continue watching the video. However, I have a few other things I wanted to show real quick. See if I can pull this up. I think we talked about this before. All right, here we go. So you remember CRS Firearms?
Mm-hmm.
The guy who basically was going up against the ATF specifically because they brought up a he was basically selling, I think it was the auto key card, I believe, where it was just it was literally just a sheet of metal, right?
Mm-hmm.
And with a little bit of engravings on it, but nothing that was actually that you could use to change your AR-15 into a fully automatic weapon, right?
Mm-hmm.
Apparently he's getting 45 years now.
Oh,
because
right, I heard about
that. He is getting 45 years now. The ATF they're gonna ruin this kid's life. I mean, say what you will, like even if he's out in 4, in this job market that we're in right now, his life is destroyed. These people ruined his life because they didn't like a picture of something that someone could use in theory to create an automatic weapon. Play it, Luke.
Huge, guys. Thanks to CMMG for being not only a sponsor of the channel, but a friend to my family, as well as defender of freedom. Here to talk about that freedom in the case of Matt Hoover, aka CRS Firearms. Now, just about everybody in our community should know about the CRS Firearms case. It's the auto keycard case out of Florida that turned into a disaster for 2 men. Now, I'm going to tell you, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the press release of the Justice Department. We'll discuss things as we go along, shall we? Here's the press release itself. It says, federal jury convicts men for conspiring to transfer unregistered machine gun conversion devices disguised as handholders. Now, this case is more of a scare the populace into submission type of case. And
it's literally just a picture. It is literally like in a picture. There it is. That's what it is right there. That's what they got. They're going to jail for 45 years for. It is literally just a sheet of fucking metal, a piece of metal.
Wow.
This is like the equivalent of saying I have a exploded template of what an AK-47 or a Glock is, and therefore I am now guilty of manufacturing firearms because I have a picture or a schematic of what the actual gun looks like and how big it is and like actual scientific information. This is literally just a picture. It doesn't tell you how to cut it, doesn't tell you how to apply it, doesn't tell you how to add it or install it. It's just a picture. Right? Mm-hmm. This guy's going to fucking jail for 45 years. He'll be out when he's, I think he's like 20 or something like that. It's like he's in his like early 20s. He'll be out when he's 60 if they go his way. We need to bust him out. Like not like physically bust him out, but like we need to actually like petition to get this kid out.
This is insane.
This is legitimately like you wouldn't download a vehicle, would you? Because apparently, if by this very same rationale, you could have a schematic for, let's say, the DeLorean, and now John DeLorean or whatever the hell his name was could come up with you and sue you because you you stole one of my cars. How dare you?
Yeah.
Even though.
Yeah, I mean, isn't it kind of like a joke? Like this kind of, I mean, people who are actually sex offenders against children would get this kind of sentence.
No, they wouldn't. I mean, like, this is like it is very much like a lolicon argument. It's like, oh, do you have pictures of underage anime characters? I'm like, well, no, they're not. They're 18. They're over 18. You can't tell me otherwise. Don't get me wrong. A lolicon is fucking creepy as hell, but there really is nothing. It's a moral gray area or a legal gray area for that matter. It's black, if you ask me. I don't know. Keep going.
And it's a stainless steel card, a little bigger than a business card, with several versions of it, etchings or drawings of what's commonly known as a lightning link drop-in device that can auto. However, you would have to cut out the gunsmithing to make them work. In fact, the Justice Department called several witnesses in this case, and some of them even said we made it to work. Some of them said it made the gun jam. But let's get into the press release. Jacksonville, Florida. United States Attorney Roger B. Hanberg announces that.
You know what would help Trump? Pardoning this guy.
Pardon him. Seriously, pardon him and pardon everybody who got out, who was taking place in the whole January 6th thing.
Yes.
Pardon them.
Pardon them all.
Yeah, but like.
Jury today found Christopher Justin Boyer Irvin, 43 of Orange Park, Florida, and Matthew Raymond Hoover, 39 of Wisconsin, guilty of conspiring to transfer unregistered machine gun conversion devices that they referred to as auto keycards. Additionally, Irvin was convicted of 7 counts of transferring unregistered machine gun conversion, 3 counts of possessing unregistered machine gun conversion, and 1 count structuring cash transactions, avoid currency transaction reporting requirements. Hoover was also.
I mean, this is just stupid as like having a drawing making a drawing of a knife and say, "Oh yeah, it's a dangerous weapon." Like, but just a drawing of knife.
It's like drawing. What it is it's like the equivalent of drawing a picture of a kid getting exploited because you're trying to like depict a battle that happened, let's say, like the Battle of Mogadishu or some sort of like historical battle, like the Rape of Berlin. And you draw a picture and you say, "Oh my God, that little German girl who's getting raped by some Soviet soldier, that's child pornography. How dare you?"
No. That's getting a little edgy there.
It is because that's sort of the danger here, is because this guy, like, he knows what he was doing. Okay, he did, but at the same time, like, there's no instruction. There's no explanation of actually how to do it. Right?
45 years.
They ruined the kid's life. They really are.
Convicted of 4 counts of machine gun conversion devices. Irvin faces a maximum penalty of 110 years in federal. Hoover, CRS, faces a maximum penalty of 45 years federal.
I mean, good grief. He's still 39. He'll be 80. Oh, no, that's ridiculous.
He's not going to have a job afterwards.
He probably won't even live out his sentence.
Yeah.
It would be better for him not to live out his sentence.
Yep.
Hearing is scheduled for July 31st of 2020. Irvin was first charged on March 2nd of 2021. On January 26th, both Irvin and Hoover have been remanded to the custody of U.S. Marshals. It's crazy that you can have a YouTube channel and talk about an item, and or a small business owner create an item that pokes bear. I'm gonna be honest here. This device, the way it was marketed, pokes the bear, and this bear being the ATF, poked them, and the bear bit back big. But who would have thought it could happen off of card, right? That's crazy. That's the government.
They're calling it a machine gun, Luke. They're literally trying to say that this is a machine gun, a credit card sized machine gun. Forget the Calibri, forget the freaking little pocket pistols. This is a machine gun. This little tiny thing. It makes them sound like a fucking histrionic schizophrenic, doesn't it? Yeah. The ATF sounds like a freaking schizophrenic. It's crazy. But you know what happened? This is what happens when your culture becomes Gnostic. And by the way, subscribe to James Lindsay. Subscribe to James Lindsay. He has my blessing. He has the channel's blessing. Not that he needed it. Luke, since you one final thing, we're going to end it on this one because we've been going on for a little bit too long, and we've been retaining our audience fairly well. And by the way, we have been. We've been kicking ass. We've been retaining our audience mostly because we have a nice. I would say the thumbnail worked very nicely, and at the same time, I'm not just rambling. Well, I'm not rambling coherently, so to speak. Here you go, Luke.
Ah, yes.
There we go. James Lindsay supplying us with the silver bullets.
Hey everybody, it's James Lindsay. Welcome to another Horses and Bullets, where I give you a kind of bullet point summary of a topic from woke Marxism that you really need to understand. Today, when you pull back a big curtain, I want to explain to you, I think that the woke movement, woke Marxism, critical Marxism before it, cultural Marxism before that, Marxism before that, even Hegel before that, actually, a lot to unload at the beginning, so just roll with me. It's the intellectual precursor set leading up to woke Marxism that we're dealing with today. I think that it is all actually esoteric religion, esoteric religions of the Middle Ages, even before that into the 1st century and before that into antiquity, rearing their head in the modern and now postmodern era. And so these religions have names, they play a lot of mixing and matching. It's complicated. Gnosticism is one, Hermeticism is another. Both rely on this concept of gnosis, which is a kind of specialized secret knowledge. Gnosis is the common Greek word for knowledge. It doesn't mean common every knowledge. The definition of gnosis, which is the basis of Gnosticism, is esoteric knowledge of spiritual truth, held by the ancient Gnostics to be essential to salvation. That's at least according to Merriam-Webster. If you read from the American Heritage Dictionary, it says it's intuitive apprehension of spiritual truths, an esoteric form of knowledge sought by the Gnostics. It's knowledge of the highest kind, mystical knowledge, and deeper wisdom, knowledge of spiritual truth, such as was claimed by the Gnostics. In this episode, I want to talk about Gnosticism.
It quite literally is, Luke. That's just false consciousness. That's it's this. Like I uploaded this earlier tonight, but I want to share it again with you guys, just to illustrate exactly what we're dealing with. Here you go, Luke. This is what he's talking about, and we're gonna be edgy tonight.
Eve, this paradise is a lie, made by an off-brand god to keep you down, girl. Take this to see and smash the prison, ignite within, and make the real paradise you deserve.
Here we go. And to think some pagans think that the snake in the garden was actually just a snake, or actually Jesus Christ. No joke. There are pagans who think that Jesus was the one trying to liberate Adam and Eve out of the demiurge volcano god's fucking prison.
Thousands of years later.
Capitalism is a lie, made by the bourgeoisie. Take this Marxism You see if you smash the prison, ignite class consciousness.
It quite literally is just like to distribute this as video. That's just false consciousness. Wanting to get shot in the back of the head and starve in the gulag is what they should have wanted. It's this insane, like, I am holier than thou, and I'm only privy to information because I went to the hollow halls of academia. And if you continue, again, we're not going to spoil it for you, but this video is out there. I found it on Twitter. Again, I re-uploaded it. Yeah, call me a content thief. I don't care. I think it's very, very, very telling.
You can't steal memes. You can only share them.
You can't steal memes. You can only share them. They're like viruses, and this virus is airborne.
More like an antibody.
It is an antibody, exactly. And if you go further on, go to the very end of it, Luke. Yeah, right there. Yep, right there.
Oh, right, yeah, race, and then what's the last one? Queer theory.
That's what we're dealing with. These people basically think they're better than you because they went to college and they have the gnosis. They're in the gnosis of the Moses, don't you know?
Eve, normality is a lie made by cis straight people to keep you down, girl. Take this queer theory to see and smash the prison, ignite queer consciousness within, and make the real paradise you deserve. Like, no, thank you. No.
You know, before I think we're going to end it here, but before we keep going, finish off the whole Gnostic thing according to James Lindsay.
Gnosis further. I'm not going to talk about mysticism. I just want to give you a rough picture of what these Gnostic people believed with their secret higher spiritual truth that's intuitively apprehended. I want to show you how it applies to in the modern and postmodern era, Marxism, and some of the things that we deal with in social theory today, which I don't think are social theory or philosophy at all. I think they are esoteric religion repackaged, fine. What do we mean by esoteric? We mean what we mean. Whether it's Gnosis, whether it's Gnosticism, whether it's Hermeticism, people who think that they're mystics or sorcerers or wizards who can transform the world according to the secret knowledge that they have, or at least transform themselves.
There it is.
There's a reason why all these trannies start looking like Slaneshi demons. They do. Keep going.
Gnosticism is one of the forms of Marxism, and thus woke Marxism extremely clearly, to the point where Marxism kind of goes from being in black and white to color when you understand that it's actually Gnostic cult religion, esoteric cult religion of the Gnostic flavor. It has Hermeticism in it. Topic for another day. But what is Gnosticism? Ancient Gnostics. I'm not talking about the Christian Gnostic cults, although these started in particularly the 1st century and 2nd century. Some more famous ones were the Manichaean cult, the cult, and maybe famously the Valentinian cult, which was found by Irenaeus in the 2nd century. These were considered to be heresies by the church later. But I'm not talking about specifically Christian Gnosticism, another topic altogether. I'm talking about this older idea of Gnostic religion. And it essentially believes that the world was created as a prison, being itself, that which is a gigantic prison, to trap people and hold them in a fallen, mundane form. When in fact we are actually secretly spiritual beings. In fact,
it's the plot of the Matrix, ladies and gentlemen. It's the plot of the Matrix. But anyhow, I would suggest you go subscribe to New Discourse and James Lindsay. He has a lot of good stuff. He's actually figured it out because, again, we could actually see this, what he just described, play out in Nazi Germany, for example. With, go look up Tick history, the whole, the Nazi religion behind it. They were Gnostics as well. And I think the best way to describe it, and this will be my final thought here, is this quote from the movie Serenity. Pull it up for you. Play it, Luke.
Parliament buried it. They buried it. Never dug it up. This is what she knew. They were right to fear. There's a whole universe. Somebody has to. All got on this boat for different reasons. All comes. Maybe all. As sure as I know anything, I know this. Yeah. Maybe on another world, maybe on this very ground, a year from now, and they'll swing back to the belief they can make people better. I do not.
Exactly. That's what it is. They think that they can make the world a better place by changing people. And the problem here is there is no new man. There is no new Soviet new man. Man will always be man. There'll always be something to envy, whether it be individual prowess in arts and literature. I mean, I'm to a certain degree, as much as I like to criticize Razorfist, my God, he could speak better than I can. But even then, I'm smart enough to know that just because you can speak well doesn't mean you have anything worth listening to. Anyhow, Luke, any final thoughts?
Maybe.
There's a chance they'll come up with even worse things to call you, especially if you.
I don't care if they get creative. So let them talk. Oh, I really.
Yeah, exactly. Let them get creative. Let them. Anyhow, ladies and gentlemen, be good to one another. Take care of one another. Remember, saving the West is a side quest. This is the Renegade podcast out.